You know, if we're talking to this guy, that we're talking about things moving at a high rate of speed. It's the National Hot Rod Association is what he's associated with now. But I love getting to the roots with the guys who are great at things, at how they became interested in what it is they became interested in. I don't understand you guys who want to go fast. It must be something that happens very young, right, Tony? Like you had no choice but to end up around fast cars.
They call guys like us type T personalities, where, the shortened version is we're adrenaline junkies. We have to be stimulated all the time, and a slow paced lifestyle isn't very conducive to my personality. So yes, it's there's many forms that you can do. I mean, you can skydive, you can swim in underwater caves, you can do all kinds of extreme sports, but what I got involved in at a very early age was auto racing. And, my father was a local racer that didn't run very much when I was little, but he drove race cars a little bit. And because of that, I got the racing bug. So it's been a part of my life ever since. Do you have the other adrenaline needs? Are you somebody who's seeking all of those other things that you mentioned? Not necessarily, but I mean, I like to go I'm getting to the age, I'm 51 years old now. I am getting to the age where I do enjoy doing things outside of motorsports as well. But, my wife, Leah, is a big wake surfer. So we wake surf when we have time. She's trying to get me in shape. I'm not the most healthy guy in the world. So we hike a lot now, mountain bike a lot. So I like doing things that we're active doing, but I'm not a guy that's just going to go sit in a gym. If she wants me to work out, we're going to do something that's fun, whether it's hiking or biking, something active where we're out and you don't really realize you're getting the benefit of a workout from it. Does it annoy the people who love you that you have to be this way, or is it something that they understand and accept? They wouldn't be your friends and loved ones otherwise. Well, on the loved one side, it's their fault. They're the ones that got us involved in it. So, my mother and father are avid race people. My mom, I will say this, she hardly ever came to races when I got to the professional level. It made her nervous. But, like I mentioned, since I got married, she watches my wife every week at her races. When I'm racing, she likes to watch, but she doesn't come to the track a lot. But the family's always been supportive. The friends know that I've got a screw loose, and that's why they're my friends.
Tony, I have to be honest. I feel like hiking would be boring to you, like very boring to you.
He's 51, though. He's 51.
It's not sitting in a gym, so it's being active, and it's great cardio for me. You do get a good leg workout and core workout when you're doing it. So I just can't stand the thought of sitting in a gym. I got to be outside doing something. I've got a couple of questions here that I'd just like you to fill in the blank on. The number of times that you've gotten out of a speeding ticket because you're Tony Stewart is blank. Well over a dozen.
That a boy.
Well over.
Does it ever not work?
It did work in this scenario, but there was a guy that liked a different driver that driver and I didn't get along with.
Oh, wow.
It just was a little more complicated during
All right. Well, no, but Tony, you're not even going to give us the name. So somebody shows up to the car, they pull you over, you're going too fast, and the rival is blank. If I knew more about what your beefs were, you had a couple of them.
He was a Jeff Gordon fan. So Jeff and I literally are 2 months apart in age and came up the same way in racing. And, we've got a ton of respect for each other and we're buddies now. But when we raced, we were rivals. So, they either liked Jeff or they liked us. And this guy just happened to be a Jeff Gordon fan.
Gave you 5 tickets?
No, he let me out of it. But the amount of time I made up before I got pulled over, I lost all that times 5 on the stop.
Are you someone who drives fast everywhere?
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what the speed is. It's not like there's a number that's attached to it. I just have to drive a little bit faster than everybody I'm around to keep myself happy.
What happens to Tony Stewart in a school zone?
I slow down because I know the stories. If you get busted in a school zone.
Yeah.
So that's
double or triple.
That's the place that they slow you down. Have you? And I know this is I don't know if it's a question you get all the time, but it's one that I always ask. There are so many times people don't understand how hard physically what you guys did is, and I would imagine there have been times you've had to go in the suit because you've just had to go to the bathroom in the suit.
Yeah, this topic came up with some fans this weekend, and when I used to race IndyCar, the motor is attached to the chassis. It's actually the center section of the chassis. So in those cars, the seats are really thin and they form fit to your body. Well, if they have a harmonic vibration, that over time and over the course of a race would make you feel like you needed to urinate. So the women always love listening to this question because they're like, what happens if you have to go to the bathroom? In that scenario, the doctors will tell you you're best to just go in your suit. That's what you have to do, because you think of your bladder like a water balloon. So if you throw a water balloon against the wall, what happens? Bursts. So you can imagine if you have a full bladder and you crash, you could rupture your bladder in an accident too. So as uncomfortable as that sounds and doesn't sound fun, I'd rather mess my uniform up for the day than have to go to the ER.
Is it a common thing? Is there a number of times you can give us?
No, it's very rare, honestly. I mean, the thing that you'll see drivers do on race day when they have driver introductions, they'll do their wave, go across the stage, they get in the truck, they wave to the fans, do the parade lap around there, and then when they get back, they get out of the vehicles and they disappear like ants for about 60 to 90 seconds. They know exactly where the restrooms are, and it's just like when we were kids. Your parents say, hey, when we get ready to leave, go to the bathroom because we're not stopping. Well, it's exactly the way these drivers treat races as well.
What is the most unpleasant thing about the doing of it that we don't understand how hard it is to be you in the heat of a car going that speed with that kind of pressure?
So when I started in NASCAR, they didn't have carbon fiber seats and they didn't have cool suits and all that. So basically you sat in an aluminum shaped seat with a seat cover inside of it. But when that got wet and if it had sitting water in it, it literally would cook you. So it was so hot, and the heat from the exhaust pipes radiated through the floor and radiated through the seat. And if you sweat a lot, or if you poured a bottle of water down your chest to cool off, where that water lands is in the bottom of the seat. So then it's just cooking like you're on a stovetop.
You're a 4-time NASCAR Cup Series champion. Do you look at something on your resume and cite it as something you're prouder of than all the other things?
Well, honestly, 3 times. I wish it was 4. But the last one of the 3 was that championship I won as an owner and a driver. So
well, I was counting that one, though. Like I thought you were an owner for 1 and a driver for 3,
yeah,
no?
I'm sorry. You're correct. You were absolutely spot on there. With Kevin Harvick, it was the 4th. But my 3rd one as a driver was the one that was really special to me. To be not only the driver of the car, but to be the guy that owned the race team as well and assembled the team and the people. To celebrate with my team, it was a way different feeling than what it had been as my driver championships before that. To sit there with that group of people, and it wasn't about what my accomplishment was. In that moment, I realized how much of an accomplishment it was to put that package together and those people, and honestly, to celebrate with them versus just the gratification of what it meant to me personally.
Is that a real thing? Did it feel more lonely the other way or selfish? I don't want to, put bad things on it, but the idea of doing it with a team, shared joy seems like a hell of a lot more fun.
Yeah, it really was. And I got a taste of that. The first race that I won with Stewart Haas Racing was the All-Star race in Charlotte. I paid $1 million. And I remember being in victory lane, and that organization before I joined them had never won a race. And to sit there in victory lane and watch grown men that worked on the crew have tears in their eyes just for winning 1 race. And I'm like, guys, I've already won 2 championships, not just races, but championships. But to see what that 1 race meant to those guys. And then when we won, the championship as an owner and driver, to see that same group of guys accomplish a dream that they had never had before. It doesn't take away from just being a driver. I mean, because that's what you do. Your whole life as a driver, you try to get to the top. You try to reach the pinnacle of motorsports and win races and championships. But then when you get the opportunity to be in a leadership role aside from just an employee, so to speak, and lead these guys to a championship and see how as a group I wouldn't say it's negative and taking away on the earlier ones, but it just added more when you're able to realize what it meant to the entire group.
And when you look at the totality of your career, do you cite a time above all others where you weren't as happy, that the success wasn't what you thought it was, that you were surprised by something that arrived with success that you didn't like so much?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody in professional sports will tell you that they have that moment. It's not all that you see on TV. It's not always glitz and glamour. There's a lot of work that goes with it, and there's a lot of stresses and strains. And we were talking earlier today to some people about the fact that literally one of the months one year, I had 2 days off the entire month, 2 personal days to myself. The rest of the time we were testing, doing appearances, production days, races, testing. It just filled the schedule. So it's one of those scenarios where sometimes you have to go, be careful what you wish for, you might get it. But there's always, I think, the more success you have, the more responsibility that comes with it. And there's always the hidden challenges and things that people don't see that's going on behind the scenes that sometimes take away from the fun of it.
Do you still have a pet pig?
I do not.
What happened?
Oh, no.
The German Shepherd and the pig got in a fight one day.
Oh, no. Oh,
when they
no.
drew blood, I said, somebody's got to go. And my dog was my right-hand man and went everywhere with me. And so the pig relocated 3 miles down the road from our house, right, and has enjoyed a great life. He is fat on the farm, so to speak.
Do you visit? I mean,
visitation rights?
I did. I used to. And then I moved back to Indiana after I retired from the Cup Series, so I don't get down there anymore.
What is the name of the pig?
It was Pork Chop.
Of course.
And did you know that pigs would fight with dogs?
I did not. He somewhat had my personality for a little while. So he loved me. He didn't like a lot of people, and he damn sure didn't like my dog.
But did you know that early on, or like
No.
that?
No, I did not. I wouldn't have put myself in that.
How could you know?
Well,
Right.
how terrible a fight was that? The pig and the dog.
Well, when I said they drew blood on each other, and when they drew blood on me, I said, "All right, somebody's in big trouble over this one."
Oh wow!
So
yes,
it was pretty massive.
And what are the things that we don't know about pet pig ownership that we should know beyond that?
I don't know that there's too many negatives aside from that. My buddy Max Pappas, who raced in the IndyCar series, he met my pig, and he bought 2 pigs for his family and his property. So he still has both of them. And I remember the night that I actually delivered him from Indiana down to North Carolina for him to pick him up. He met us at the airport. So they're kind of cool. It was really cool when, you walk down the sidewalk and you're walking your pig, and people that are walking dogs are looking at you, and they don't know whether it's friendly or not. They literally would walk across the street to the other sidewalk. They didn't want to be anywhere near you.
You mentioned Pappas, and Stugotz and I both perked up because, of course, as hopefully you know, that was Johnny Utah's partner in the classic Point Break.
Of course,
and
he
as
knows.
an adrenaline junkie, you know that is 100% pure adrenaline. And I was wondering if you have fond memories of the early 90s picture directed by Catherine Bigelow, Point Break. If not, is there another film that you go to for a just shot of 100% pure adrenaline?
Well, my wife is a big Vin Diesel fan, so we watched all the Fast and Furious movies, and then it started getting to where when you're jumping
Tony,
cars off the cliffs and stuff, we started losing interest.
It gets ridiculous, but Fast and Furious just directly stole their entire plot from Point Break. Guy goes undercover and becomes friends with the people that he's chasing. That is classic Johnny Utah trying to infiltrate the ex-presidents. Mm-hmm. We've seen it before, is what I'm saying.
The jumping out of an airplane with no parachute like that, and
Boom.
Travis Pastrana doing it.
Yep.
That's a pretty that's a big baller move.
It's bullshit, and their copy. Yes, they shouldn't be stealing that. They shouldn't be stealing the stuff. They should pay homage in ways that are respectful in public, and Point Break deserves the proper credit. He's joining us on behalf of the 2023 season, as I mentioned, of the National Hot Rod Association. It gets going in March. What is the difference between hot rods and the other kinds of racing that you've done?
I think over the 40 plus years now that I've been driving race cars, you can pretty much bundle everything together in motorsports until I got to the NHRA world. And it is on its own. It's like being on Fantasy Island. It's way off center from the rest of motorsports. But I remember when I started dating Leah and I went to her first event that, we started dating during COVID. So when COVID started easing up and, pro sports started figuring out ways to be active again, when I went to one of her events, I remember standing on the starting line behind her car. And when she hit the gas the first time, I remember physically feeling the insides of my body moving. And there was nothing I've ever done in my entire life, let alone motorsports, that made that happen. And I said, "What was that?" She goes, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you about that part." And it literally made me car sick, and I was standing on the ground. That's the concussion from 11,000 horsepower. So I fell in love with it at that moment. And the more I was with Leah, the more I enjoyed the sport and was around it more. But now having the opportunity, I've driven her top fuel car 16 times, but I'm competing in the top alcohol dragster division this year, which is way slower than what she's running. I'm only running 280 miles an hour. She's running 330 miles an hour in her car. So I get a little slower experience, but it's still way faster than anything I've ever driven in my entire life, and with way more horsepower.
What does that feel like? What don't we understand about going 280 miles an hour?
So you'll hear a lot of times with Air Force pilots and talk about the G forces, and you'll hear them talk about 8 and 9 Gs. The top fuel dragster will sit on the starting line stationary. When they hit the gas, it starts at about 3.5 Gs and will get up to positive 6 Gs. And then when they hit the chutes at the end of the run, it instantly goes from 6 positive Gs to negative 6.5 Gs when the chute opens up and blossoms to slow you down. So the amount of G forces and how physical it is driving the car, it's not the physically demanding part of having to turn the steering wheel. It's the amount of G forces your body sustains. The difference is where fighter pilots have to really go through and wear flight suits that keep the blood in their head. In the dragster, it's such a short amount of time that you're not losing the blood, and it's not going from your head. It's actually going to your head during the run. So just the amount of force that the car pulls in G forces is something that I never experienced in any other form of racing.
How dangerous is all that?
We're still running 280 miles an hour, and versus IndyCar or NASCAR, if you miss pit road, you just go around in another lap and then pull on pit road. In NHRA, it's a straight line. When you cross the finish line, there's the shutdown area. And if you miss that, you go into a big, gigantic ski net. You are going to stop. But it's whether you stop the hard way or you stop the easy way. So everybody's like, I get a lot of questions of what's it feel like when the chutes come out, because they hear about the G forces and how it pushes your body forward. And I tell them relief. I at least know I'm going to stop when the chutes come out.
And how much does that hurt? Can we understand any of that? Do we have the capacity to understand how all of that physically feels? Can you articulate it in a way that
it doesn't hurt? It's not a painful situation. When you hit the gas, it just literally just pushes you back in the seat. And it's an experience that's unlike, you can't get it anywhere else. The only thing you could get it in is a fighter jet. So imagine anything on 4 wheels. There's nothing on this planet that accelerates harder than a top fuel dragster or funny car. And then you come down to the series I'm in with the top alcohol dragster, it still has a lot of G forces like that. It's not as much as the top fuel cars, but it's an experience of going from zero. Literally in 60 feet with a top fuel car, you're running over 100 miles an hour in the first 60 feet of the run. 60 feet.
I grew up raised by cable television in the heyday of the subscription model. So I watched ESPN2 daytime for plenty of my summer vacation. All of this leads me to ask, is John Force still out there doing his thing?
Absolutely. He is the man. He's 73. He's like the Richard Petty of drag racing. So he is still out there kicking butt. I have a funny car team that races against John, and he's tough, man. And the fun thing about watching him is he plays a lot of mind games with these younger drivers that he's racing with, and he gets them off their game and gets them mad in etiquette on the starting line, and he just laughs about it and just does his thing. But yeah, he's still out there winning races and contending for championships. He's the man.
You're friendly, but you have a bit of competitiveness between you guys. Have you ever thought about mentioning his teeth? His teeth are just a lot going on there.
No, that'd be like walking up to Richard Petty and saying, "Hey, walk around without your sunglasses and your cowboy hat once in a while." It's just not going to happen.
But
so,
it's not the same thing. It's his
performance
teeth,
enhancers.
Tony. I mean,
His teeth are ridiculous.
he's got those chiclets out there all the time. He's always smiling, and he's got the grill showing all the time.
Do you remember the amount and the details around your first winning check?
I remember the first big cardboard check I got was at a race in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I remember the funny part was I lived in a very, very small town, less than 3,000 people at the time. And I remember going to the bank to cash the check from the car owner after the weekend. And I brought that check in. And I remember I went up to the
No.
did you sign the back? What happened? You signed the back?
On it.
Right.
So the pen with the chain on it's there, and I'm trying to reach this pen over to sign the back of the check.
That's awesome.
Or deposit only.
I will say this as far as big checks. I remember my second championship that I won. I remember being at the banquet, and I remember going up there, and my check was over $5 million for winning the championship, and they give it to you on stage. And I remember putting it in my tuxedo pocket. Get done with that, you go to the after party, you get wasted and have fun. Forgot the check in the pocket. They had to cancel a $5.5 million check, cancel it, that was sitting in the tuxedo pocket, and reissue a new check. Jesus. That was one that Joe Gibbs was not happy and proud of.
Two exceptional check stories. I don't know which of them is better, but you're telling me, was it hard?
The cardboard check is better.
To get the cardboard check into your car? Did people wonder why it is that you were walking into the bank with a giant check under your arm?
Trying to shove it into an ATM machine?
And literally, I mean,
through
when
the
I say
drive-through
this check was $1,000 check. So it's not like I walked in there with this big $500,000 check in my hand. Big cardboard check that's for $500 or $1,000, and you walk in there, and I thought I was going to be cute, and I went to grab the pen, and the chain wasn't long enough. So it's like, man, she goes, "What do you want me to do with that?" I'm like, "Well, I want you to cash it, of course." And then I gave her the real check.
Do you think John Force has spent $5 million on his teeth?
Obviously, no. So that's an obvious question. No, he has
That's
not.
what we're talking about, Tony. A little beef.
He might need $5
Finally.
million, but he might need to put a little bit into it.
A reminder that in March 2023 season of the National Hot Rod Association begins. I do not want to get into the details of what happened in that 2014 sprint car race. Everyone considers the matter closed, and you were cleared. But I did wonder at the time what that was like going through for you emotionally.
Yeah, it was terrible. Literally the worst moment of my life. I had just come off of an injury with a leg injury in a sprint car that put me out for the remainder of the season. And literally that was my 5th sprint car race back. And I had sponsors with me. I had my cup crew chief with me. This was the night before the Watkins Glen race, and was just happy to be driving a race car again, and happy to be running dirt track stuff again, aside from what we were doing with NASCAR. And that one moment literally changed my life. I never saw it coming, never knew that something like that was going to happen in that race, or I would have never went, obviously. I do the sprint car racing for fun. I wasn't making a living at it anymore. And that was my pride and joy. That was my release. So, something that's so special to me in a sport that's so special, and then to have it in a tragedy like that. I've never looked at sprint car racing the same since then.
I was going to ask you how long before you could actually escape what all of that felt like, because the public scrutiny of it was unpleasant, and you already had a reputation as a hothead, so people were, jumping to conclusions. Yeah,
but I'm still a human being and still have a heart. The things that they see as a hothead, that's etiquette, and that's driver etiquette, and what you're supposed to do and not do at racetracks, that I would get into it with guys in racing. But that kid and I didn't even know each other. Kevin and I didn't know each other. We didn't have a beef with each other over anything. We were just racing. And for that to happen, I mean, that, that kid had a long future in motorsports ahead of him. And, it's something that never should have happened. I mean, he never should have got out of that race car, but, trust me, that was the farthest thing from my mind, was wanting something like that to happen. And I can tell you this right now. I don't give two craps about what the people thought. I had to live it. I have to live through this the rest of my life. And I didn't want that I didn't know his family before then, but obviously I've met his family since, and I don't want that for them. I don't want it for me. It changed my life forever. But, it's really easy for people to sit behind a computer screen or a TV screen, to sit there and watch something and not know 5% of the facts and come to a conclusion. The people that ridiculed us were people that didn't like us to begin with, because they liked some other driver in racing. So it's easy to jump on the bandwagon like that. But that was single-handedly the hardest thing that I've ever been through in my life. And my worst enemy in the world, I wouldn't want to have to go through what that family and myself went through.
You're very good friends with Eddie Vedder, among others. If we were to go through your cell phone, would we find anybody better or cooler than Vedder in there?
I don't know. My buddy Kid Rock's pretty fun. I remember doing a lot of things with him, and there's a lot of endings to nights that I don't remember with him. But yeah, the list of people we've met through motorsports, in different entertainment industries, and other sports figures, it's been a lot of fun.
So no's the answer to my question. No one cooler than Eddie Vedder.
Well, he thinks Kid Rock is.
Yeah, I don't know how you find anybody cooler than Eddie Vedder. I mean, he is he's unbelievable. And again, talking about people with big hearts. I mean, what Eddie has done with that foundation and that group. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in what we do full time, and we focus our energy 100% into what we do. But to be able to take a step back and do something positive for charities like Eddie does, it shows what kind of person he really, truly is down deep inside.
The National Hot Rod Association. It gets started in March. Good talking to you, Tony. Thank you for making the time for us.
Yeah, come see us at the Gator Nationals, man. You get to see me be a rookie and have rookie stripes on as a race car driver at the age of 51 now. So we're going to have fun this year.
Good seeing you, sir.
You guys. Thank you.